Welcome, welcome. We are starting our Facebook Live, and this week we have a very interesting topic. This topic is secret to having no enemies. So I would like to first welcome all the friends and all the spiritual seekers who are interested in spiritual topics. And this spiritual topic is actually very practical one. Why? Because every one of us is experiencing this duality of having friends on one side and of having enemies on the other side. And you may ask actually, is it possible that one can have no enemies? Yes, it is possible. And we will check this through the ancient yoga textbooks. We will start with the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Text 12. So I would like to read this text to you and also part of the commentary of the purport. And then, of course, I would like to explain more about this topic. So the translation of the verse goes like this. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with the living entity because of his devotional service, one becomes a Pandita and does not make distinctions between enemies, friends, and himself. Intelligently, he then thinks, every one of us is an eternal servant of God, and therefore we are not different from one another. And now I really want to read a portion of the purport so that you see what is the connection here. When Prahlad Maharaja's teachers and demoniac father asked him how his intelligence has been polluted, Prahlad Maharaj said, as far as I'm concerned, my intelligence has not been polluted. Rather, by the grace of my spiritual master and by the grace of my Lord Krishna, I have now learned that no one is my enemy and no one is my friend. We are all actually eternal servants of Krishna, but under the influence of the external energy, we think that we are separately situated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead as friends and enemies of one another. The mistaken idea has now been corrected. And therefore, unlike ordinary human beings, I no longer think that I am God and that others are my friends and enemies. Now I'm rightly thinking that everyone is an eternal servant of God and that our duty is to serve the Supreme Master, for then we shall stand on the platform of oneness as servants. So I'll stop here. The purport goes further, but I'll stop here because this is a very deep topic. And if we can grasp at least a little bit of this topic, our life will become so much better. So first I would like to request the blessings of my spiritual teachers. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So the first thing that I would like to say regarding this is that the connection. So yesterday in a class, I was speaking about purified intelligence, how this is actually the best intelligence that can completely transform our life and help us to achieve real happiness. So this was actually the topic of the discussion that Prince Prahlad had with his father and his teachers, because his father was claiming that Prahlada's intelligence has been polluted, has been contaminated. And then the teachers were all upset and anxious and started questioning him. But Prahlad, he actually told them, no, my intelligence has not been polluted. Just on the contrary, actually, just the opposite. My intelligence has been restored, has been actually purified. And he gives us here in this verse, he actually gives us an amazing result of this pure intelligence. If one has this pure intelligence, then one actually does not see anybody as his enemy anymore. This is the result of the pure intelligence, of the purified intelligence. And he also goes much deeper. He actually explains that, like, I can give an example in our daily life. Like here in this world, it is basically like this, that every one of us is acting in our life and imagining oneself as a main actor in our story of our life, in our drama. Every one of us has a story, has a drama, which is our life. And we are the main actor in this story. And the interesting thing is that as a main actor in this story, we expect everyone else to have a supportive role, like assistant role in this drama of our life. But unfortunately, what happens is that everybody has the same agenda. So everybody is considering oneself to be the main person, the main hero of his story, of his drama. And everybody is expecting another person to be a supportive role, to supportive actor in his story. So then we know what happens, right? There are conflicts, so many conflicts. We have so many difficulties, and then we accept some people as friends. Who are people who are our friends? Those who are willing to play a supportive role in our story, in our drama. And those who are not willing to do so, they become our enemies. And this is what is explained here. This is what Prince Prahlad is actually explaining. That we have this understanding that we are the most important person in the world. And that everything is actually happening around us. Everything is actually subordinate to us. But actually, if we look deeper into this, then we have to understand actually we are all playing God. This is the role of God. We are playing God. And this is something that is, it's actually quite difficult to admit, because many people don't even believe in God. However, they are playing the role of God, like being in the center, being the most important person. So this is what Prince Prahlad is especially exposing. And if we think about, then we can actually understand on a deeper level why we perceive certain people as friends and why we perceive certain people as enemies. And Prahlad is actually here explaining that by the grace of his teacher and by the grace of the Lord, his intelligence has been restored, his intelligence has been purified, so he has got the proper vision. So this proper vision is also described in other places in the Vedic literature. And there is one very important verse, text from the Shri Ishopanishad. Yastu sarvani bhutani atman eva nupashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam nateshu vijugupsate. And this verse means that a person who always sees every living entity as a part and parcel of the Supreme Person, of the Supreme Soul, and also sees this Supreme Soul in every living entity in their hearts, such a person never hates anybody. So, with other words, such a person cannot consider anyone as his enemy. And you can also say that actually this is, it's very, very high level, and it is very high level. This is actually considered to be a vision of a Mahabhagavata. Mahabhagavata is a personality who is on a very high spiritual level. He's actually on a transcendental level, and he's not under the influence of duality anymore. He is not any longer under the influence of the three modes of material nature, three invisible forces which influence everybody else. And such person can have this proper, clear perception of other living beings, that actually all other living beings and himself are simply spiritual souls, particles of God, of the Supreme Soul. And as such, there is no reason to consider anybody as an enemy or anybody as friend. But now, there is another question that may arise. But we actually see that some people behave like friends, while other people behave like enemies, and they try to hurt us. They try to give us some difficulty. They try to give us some trouble. And this is true. So to go a little bit deeper into this, I would like to refer to another amazing text from Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 16 and verse 6. And this goes like this. So please listen attentively, because this is such a deep transforming knowledge. In this material world, which advances like a river that carries away the living entity, all people become friends, relatives, and enemies in due course of time. They also act neutrally, they mediate, they despise one another, and they act in many other relationships. Nonetheless, despite these various transactions, no one is permanently related. And the commentary goes like this. It is our practical experience in this material world that the same person who is one's friend today becomes one's enemy tomorrow. Our relationships as friends or enemies, family men or outsiders, are actually the results of our different dealings. Chitraketu Maharaj was lamenting for his son, who was now dead. But he could have considered the situation otherwise. This living entity, he could have thought, was my enemy in my last life, and now, having appeared as my son, he is prematurely leaving just to give me pain and agony. Why should he not consider his dead son his former enemy, and instead of lamenting, be jubilant because of an enemy's death? As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.27, Prakriti Kriyamana ni Guna Karmani Sarvashaha. Factually, everything is happening because of our association with the modes of material nature. Therefore, one who is my friend today, in association with the mode of goodness, may be my enemy tomorrow in association with the modes of passion and ignorance. As the modes of material nature work, in illusion we accept others as friends, enemies, sons or fathers, in terms of the reactions of different dealings under different conditions. So I would like to say a few words to explain this a little deeper, but it actually gives very, very clear and very, very... the reference of this verse is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 16, Text 6. It's a very, very important text for every one of us. So we can see that in this text, in the commentary, His Divine Grace A.C. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is actually explaining that it is our illusory perception through which we accept other people as our friends or enemies. Why is this so? Here it is actually explained that these other people, the souls, are actually changing their roles. And the same soul, the same living being can be at one point our friend, at another point our enemy, and then again at another point can be our relative, our husband or wife or a son or a daughter, and can have all kinds of different roles, the same living entity. And we accept this same living entity, you know, in all these different roles because we are illusioned by the material energy, by these three invisible forces of goodness, passion, and ignorance, which actually completely color and cloud our perception. So we are not really able to see things clearly as they are. And it is also explained in this commentary that actually when these different living entities accept these different roles toward us, like a role of a friend or a role of an enemy or a role of an intimate partner, they are actually just carrying out our reactions to our past activities. So it's a karmic bond. It's our karma. Basically, they are the instruments of our karma. So instead of blaming them for hurting us, if something like that happens, that the person acts inimically towards us, a person who has pure intelligence, who has purified intelligence, like Prince Prahlad is speaking, such a person understands, oh, this person is only instrument of my karma. It is not really his fault. Why should I hate this person? There is no real reason to hate this person, because this person is just bringing me the results of my own karma. It is me. I am to be blamed. I am to be blamed, not this so-called enemy of mine. And actually, I also want to tell here just a little bit of this cover story, which is in this second verse. You have heard when I was reading about King Chitraketu and his son. So the background story is that King Chitraketu, he couldn't have children, although he had so many wives. I better don't tell you, because you will faint. He had so many wives and none of them could have children, or maybe it was a problem with him. That is not described. But somehow or other, he got the blessings of great saints, and in this way, one of his queens was able to have a son. And when this son was born, king was overjoyed. He was celebrating, the whole kingdom was celebrating. But this baby did not live long. Why not? Because the rest of the queens, they were feeling so frustrated. They were feeling so unhappy. They were feeling so envious, so jealous of the fortunate queen who had a son, that they decided to actually poison the baby. And they did it. They poisoned the baby and the baby died. And when the baby died, the king was so devastated that he almost went blind. He was so desperate. How could have this happened to me? And then the sages came back because they wanted to instruct him in spiritual knowledge. And among other things, they also gave him a hint. You know what? You have to understand things on a deeper level. This little boy whom you considered to be your son was maybe your enemy in your previous life. And he just came this life to deliver your bad karma, to give you the greatest pain of losing a child. So now just watch. If King Chitraketu, would really be able to accept this understanding and really, yes, accept, well, this person, this little boy appearing as my son was actually my enemy, then the whole psychology actually changes. Then he could actually rejoice at the death of his enemy. So you see how our perception of things colors everything and influences our emotions, our emotional response, how we perceive and understand things. And things are always much, much deeper than they appear on the surface. Okay, here we have a question. Viragopal Prabhu, where does one draw the line and take action to stop the other person who appears to be the apparent cause of distress? Very nice, very nice. This is excellent question, and I was actually hoping to get this question, because it's important to have the discussion. It is very important to understand that, especially when we are on the spiritual path, but even for those who are not on the spiritual path, if we find ourselves in the situation when we are attacked or abused, then it is our duty to protect ourselves and to remove ourselves from this situation. So this is the proper thing. No one should just stay in a very, very abusive situation, very dangerous situation, and just allow himself to be tortured. That is not the idea. What I was speaking here was to have the proper vision. One who is on the spiritual path especially needs to cultivate this proper vision, that nobody is really our enemy. And I have to stress that it is possible to cultivate this vision even if we are not on the highest level of spiritual realization. And this is also explained in Shi Upanishad by the word anupashyati. Anupashyati really means to systematically observe and go in the footsteps of the previous teachers. So to systematically observe the world around us and the life and all events in our life in accordance with the vision that is given to us by the realized teachers. And so when we study this literature and get this higher understanding, then it is important that we start practicing this vision. And this will help us to gradually get more and more understanding until we will actually get a full realization of this also. So the importance is for a person who is on the path of bhakti, if he wants to ascend to the second level, which is the Madhyama Adhikari level, then it is important that he practices this vision of systematically observing everything according to Shastra Chakshu, to the spiritual vision which we get from this spiritual literature and from the realized teachers. When we are able to see like this, then we do not hate anybody. Of course, other people may still become inimical, other people may become our enemies from their point of view. And if they become violent, if they become aggressive, it is important that we protect ourselves or remove ourselves from the situation. But we do not hate them. That is a very important principle for someone who wants to advance in the spiritual understanding. So, I don't know, was that the answer satisfying or not? If it is not, please, you can give some more thoughts or you can give some input from your side. I would really appreciate whatever thoughts you want to give. This was very nice. Like the discussion becomes a little more lively. Okay. Yes. So I would like to conclude here with this today's topic and discussion, and I'll just give a short recap. Oh, we have another point here. Okay, Karuna. My businesses, great teachings. Thank you. Mentioned how one day someone can be our dear friend and later as an enemy. We can see practically so many people who fall in love and get married and later become each other's worst enemy. That always baffles me. Yes. Thank you so much for this point. Because even when we are on the spiritual path, right? When we are still on this conditioned level, we are still influenced by the material modes, and we are a little bit. Can you touch upon the meaning of being one's Worst enemy. I'm not sure if I understand this question. Can you touch upon the meaning of being once, or the mind, or maybe the mind? You mean the mind being the worst enemy? Okay, okay, great. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Yes, the mind. Uh, yes, you really brought up the essence here, because yes, nobody really is our enemy in this world. The only enemy that we have is the mind. So why is the mind the enemy? But I also have to say here that the mind can be our enemy and the mind can be our friend. So it all depends on whether our mind is disciplined or under control, or whether our mind is not under our control, it's not disciplined. So the mind which is not under our control, it's our greatest enemy. What happens with such a mind is that the mind becomes influenced by these three modes of material nature, three invisible forces of material nature, and colors our perception, like literally puts us into illusion, puts us into a hypnotic state. Yeah, believe it or not. We all, as long as we are in the conditioned state, which means influenced by the three modes, we are hypnotized. That's it. And we behave in strange ways. We perceive the reality as the mind dictates, and the mind dictates us according to the three modes of nature, and this is all connected with our karma, with our previous actions and present reactions. So how does this work? When we act in a certain way in our previous life, and we can develop certain attachments, we can develop certain aversions, we can hurt somebody. For example, according to your example that you gave, Karuna, how somebody can marry and there is love in the beginning, great affection, great attraction, but then they turn into the enemies. How is this possible? It happened because these two people have been together before. In the previous life, they have been together, they had some exchange in which one person hurt another person, or vice versa, or they already hurt one another, both. And this karma had to be balanced out. It is important. This energy has to be balanced out. That's how karma works. So in the mind, there are certain impressions. We call them samskaras in the Sanskrit word. These are certain impressions from our previous dealings with other people, positive or negative, different emotions, different different emotional charges are there. And this will drive us in this life to become attracted to a person who maybe has been our enemy in our previous life. The mind will draw us. We will experience such attraction we will not be able to resist, because it's karma, it's karmic reaction. And this person, like a magnet, comes into our life. We can't avoid it. Each other comes to our life, and then whatever has to happen happens. We are each other's instruments of karma. So if we had good relationship before, then the relationship will be loving and very nice. But if we had some bad actions in previous life, then this has to be balanced out, and it appears like inimical. And the mind is always that media through which the karma acts through our mind. So when the mind is not controlled, then these karmic reactions from our point of view will force us to act in certain way, and in this way we will create more and more karma with this same person. Of course, we cannot influence, we don't have any influence on what the other person does. This is what comes to our life. This is our reactions. One part of the reactions, one part of the karma that comes to our life. But we have one choice here, what we can do. If we control our mind, we can stop. We can stop here creating more karma in regard to this relationship with this particular person. That's the only way. Even the push may be there because of all these previous impressions. We may start feeling, we may start feeling hatred. And this is also coming from before, from previous impressions, like a reaction. But if we are able to control this, if we stop here and we really absorb ourselves in this spiritual knowledge, in this spiritual understanding, and at least theoretically understand what is happening, and check ourselves from acting inimically towards the other person, then here this karma can be stopped. Okay, I don't know, Karuna, if this was satisfactory. If not, please give some more your input. I would greatly appreciate. So, Viragopal Prabhu, doesn't bhakti and mercy change our karmic reactions? Okay, that's a good point. Yes, I don't believe I can ever control anything. Mind, no chance. Okay, doesn't bhakti and mercy change our karmic reactions? This is a very, very good point. I really appreciate. So, now, there is two kinds of people that I can speak about in this regard. If we speak about like a regular person who is not involved in spiritual life, what to speak bhakti, then, karma just acts. But if we're speaking about a spiritualist, especially somebody who is practicing bhakti yoga, then things are different. They can be very different, but it depends on certain things. So there is also one very important verse in the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, which goes like this. Tatenu kampam susamikshamano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam ridvakva purbi vidadam namaste jivita samukti pade sadaya bhak. So this verse explains the very essence of what you just mentioned here. And the translation goes like this. It says that a person who is, this is your favorite, great, also one of my favorite. So a person who is willing to, who is expecting the mercy of the Lord, all the while he is patiently tolerating the painful reactions to his past karmic activities and continues to pay obeisances to the Lord, becomes the rightful, his rightful claim is to attain the kingdom of God, to go back home to eternal spiritual abode. So in this verse, actually, we can understand that one who is on the spiritual path may still experience some painful and difficult circumstances, but this is technically not karma anymore. It is not karma for those who surrendered. So this is actually an important point, because whether we really surrendered or not is a question. Some people surrender, some people do not, and to what degree one surrenders is also can be discussed. But let's say that we now take into account a person who has surrendered to the Lord. For such a person, there is no more karma, as the Lord is explaining in Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityaja, mamekam sharanam vaja, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. He says, don't be afraid. I will protect you from all bad karma, from all bad reactions to your previous activities. But why a person is still suffering? It is because the Supreme Lord is just allowing just a little tiny bit of reactions to our previous activities to rectify the wrong mentality of a bhakta, of a practitioner of bhakti yoga. And what is this wrong mentality? This wrong mentality is simply that spirit of trying to enjoy in this world separate from the Lord. This is what is our problem here in this world. I need some more beating to surrender, or perhaps mercy. Oh, okay. This is actually very nice. We can go a step deeper here regarding the surrender. There are actually different levels of surrender, and this is actually explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially in the Canto 8. Canto 8 is actually explaining 5 kinds of surrender. And among those 5 kinds of surrender, only one is unconditional. And the unconditional surrender, it's really that surrender that we can say it's a full surrender. But it is okay. Even if we are not yet at that point when we can surrender fully and unconditionally, even if we are only at the point when we have surrendered conditionally, so we still have like some, we still hold back some things, that is all right. We have started the process of surrender. We have started the process of surrender, and gradually, we will be able to gain more faith, to gain more trust. That's mainly the thing. To gain more faith and more trust in the Supreme Lord, in His love, in His wonderful qualities, and then there is no more obstacles to our surrender fully. Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate these wonderful questions and your input. If you have any if you have any other thoughts, that is very nice. But otherwise, I will slowly end now. I would just maybe say some concluding words, what we were describing today. We actually, the whole point today was in this class that when we have purified intelligence, we don't see anyone anymore as our enemy. This is very important. I can't stress enough how important it is. Because even in spiritual life, we can fall into this trap. When something happens, somebody hurts us, somebody steps on our toe, so to say, and then we start accusing them, and then we start criticizing them, and then we start hating them. And this is one of the greatest obstacles on our spiritual path. So by all means, we have to check this. And this we can do by cultivating this spiritual vision, which comes by reading this literature and by really deeply contemplating and meditating on the verses like these two verses that we read today about what is really our real situation, that we are parts of the Lord, that we are not in the center, we are never in the center. So nobody really can be our enemy from this point of view. And from another point of view, that all the people in our life are changing their roles. Somebody who is a friend today, maybe enemy tomorrow. And this is because of the reactions of our own past activities. So if we can cultivate this proper vision and at the same time try to control our mind with the intelligence, Vera Gopal Prabhu, you said that I can't control the mind. Yes, you can, with the power of intelligence. You have great intelligence, and when intelligence is purified and strengthened in the association of saintly personalities, then you have the ability to discipline and control your mind. You have the ability to check these impulses which come, the emotional impulse which comes to, to do something, to say something critical, to do something inimical. The strength comes with the help of purified intelligence. So I will end here. Thank you so much for your attention and for your input. I'm very, very grateful. And see you again next week. Hare Krishna.